We're here at Hull's Freedom Festival. Now, the Freedom Festival is an art festival, and we're going to be immersing ourselves in the arts where Hull really excels, poetry and stories.
I'm Lydia, and this is a poem called Let's Go Out Tonight. We'll try on clothes till we look hipster, and put the selfies onto Insta. We'll drink our weight in Tesco vodka. Let's go out tonight. We'll fork out a tenner for a taxi, then go back home to get your ID.
I'm Claire, and this is a train of thought, if you will, about sort of reflecting and just taking a pause in your life. Today, I decided to take a walk. The emerald hills of this island, only briefly and occasionally interrupted by passing cars. The long grass around my ankles, just gently encouraging me to walk further.
Zoe Walker, and this piece is called Snowdrops in Queen's Gardens. There's snowdrops in Queen's Gardens, under the blue bench, next to empty fag packets and discarded biscuit wrappers. Looking at the pond with the plastic bottle ducks, I see it all out of the corner of my eye, as his hand touches my back.
I've always been good at cooking, said Grandad, and I just never did it very often when your nan was alive. I didn't want to show her up, you see. His apple pies were just the most delicious in the whole world. You can never eat a single piece, one taste, and you wanted more and more.
So Gary, we were just talking about how people from Hull love stories about Hull. Just go on a bit more about that.
Well, I've written lots of stories and published stories about. I grew up in East Hull, many of them based in East Hull, and there's been a very positive and strong reaction from people who can identify with the places and sometimes the people. For years, I believed my granddad Burnett was born on the 32nd of May, which he said it only came around every 20 odd years.
Do you think that stories that are really strongly centred and based in Hull, do you think there's a way that they're going to be able to travel and that they're going to be have any kind of universal story to tell, even though they're so heavily located within the city?
Yes, I do. I've done a lot of work overseas, including in Ghana, Nigeria, the States, Germany, where I've used the stories as a resource. I've very strong links with the town of Monroeville, where To Kill a Mockingbird was written. And my book was for sale in the museum in Monroeville because they said it reminded them of Truman Capote's stories, which is very flattering to be compared. But they're very sort of simple, but with a bit of depth, thoughtful, and with these characters who are easy to identify with. When he came back to Earth, he brought it round to our house in Mersey Street. I said, "Oh, that's impossible, I don't believe that." "Why?" he said. "I always write my name and address in my caps, just in case."
Was that a story or a poem from Gary?
A story about East Hull, Mersey Street, and it was brilliant. He had a good sense of humour with it. Wasn't too long, relaxing, it put a smile on our face. Brilliant.
So, do you normally have stories told? Do you like reading stories? Do you go and see poems?
If we go to any events and there's a storyteller there, we do like to sit and listen because you can't help but join in. It's absolutely brilliant.
Long time ago, this was all marshes around here. There were no rivers or anything. It was just marshes, and all that lived here was just little animals and tweety birds, and hardly any humans.
Big rolls will be the death of me. Can't have just one with my cup of tea. I'm like a monkey up a tree. A fig rolls will be the death of me.
And the next daughter-in-law never heard anything neither. He went to each one, but when he went to the oldest one, I can tell you, guarantee you, she heard it. She said, "What's that trick? What's that trick? What did you say? What was your drum saying?" He said, "You can hear it." She says, "Yes. What are you saying? What kind of trick are you trying to play?" And she was dragging it and grabbing it forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards. When the old woman turned up, she says, "What are you doing?" He says, "She's trying to take my drum. Please, please. She's like a spoiled child. Give her your drum."
I'm here with a self-confessed or self-proclaimed storytelling virgin, or at least in terms of hearing stories. Here on the barge, what's it been like?
Yeah, I think the last time somebody told me a story was probably when I was a child, but absolutely spellbinding. I mean, just to get completely sucked into another world and be able to just feel and experience it. I was taken aback by just how poignant, how exciting, how funny, just how very entertaining it was. Superb.
What's it like hearing a story that's been told live and with a live audience sharing it with you?
It's so much different. I mean, I've told stories to my children by reading a book, but when you have somebody who is unscripted, who's very well versed at communicating in that way, and it's a communal experience, it does make it very, very special. And I was genuinely surprised about just quite how magical it was. It was magical. I think that's probably a good word.
This was your first time. Is it going to be your last?
Oh, I doubt it. I mean, I think we're all, sorry, I shouldn't say all, but I mean, I'm very lazy when it comes to these sort of experiences. You think, nah, it's not for me, that kind of thing. And then somebody says, no, come along. And it's probably a note to self. I need to do these sort of things more often. So I doubt if that will be my last time. I enjoyed it so much.
And by the middle of 1940, they had enough money to buy some furniture. Of course, the prices were going up because of the war shortages, but they did manage to get a dining room table and one of those new utility, no-nonsense bedroom suites.
It's hard to resist a sofa, especially when there's poetry available. I'm going to get poetried up. Do you do requests?
I do requests, yes. The two-word request I try not to do, but nobody's asked me to do that yet. So, yes, I do requests. I say, would you like a tale from the underground? Would you like a tale of famous people from Hull? Would you like a love poem? Would you like anything? I try to cover all the bases and give anybody, throw me a subject and I'll try and write you a poem for it.
I'm going to use some of my inside knowledge to request a specific poem. Is that all right?
Fire away.
Could I have the one about Amy Johnson?
Amy Johnson. I think we've got Amy Johnson in here somewhere. Okie dokie. It's a sonnet, all right? All these are sonnets because they're going onto a computerised app which will be going on the plaques for the Lord Mayor's Committee in 2017. This is Amy Johnson. Amy and Jason high above the earth, against the elements and air-tossed fate, crossing the seas from the land of her birth. She flies alone, steadfast and obdurate. The engine drones, a steady 85. She listens for any change in its tone. She hopes, she prays, to simply stay alive. Then Darwin, safety and a home from home. The most accomplished flyer of her day, Amy was a pioneer of the skies, an engineer, a heroine most say, a legend, and a legend never dies. But Icarus Amy fell from the sky. None flew further and few soared quite as high.
Fantastic. That was more refreshing than a gin and tonic on a hot day. Thank you so much.
What a nice idea. I could go for one of those.
Hull's developing a really strong storytelling and storytellers tradition, and there's one person that I think is responsible for all of that, and it's Rupert. Rupert, what gave the idea of creating a storytelling cadre in Hull?
Well, I'd always worked in theatre and I love that power of the live experience of when you're hearing a story told through actors on a plot. And I'd always thought, well, stories are great anyway. Stories that are told are wonderful. Let's try and create a sort of situation whereby people coming to the festival can just sit down on a settee or on a chair or on a bench and they've got a one-to-one performance by a storyteller or a poet or a rapper.
You don't know me, you don't know nothing about me. That don't mean we don't share the self-same dream. Oh, I ain't got me, but I got something about me.
It's quite brave to decide that what you're going to do is get people to sit down on a chair or a sofa, engage the public and say, we're going to tell you a story. Some people would say that's a crazy thing to do in Hull, but how's it been going?
It's been going brilliantly. I mean, what we've had to bear in mind is that, particularly today, it's the most fantastic weather. And people think about a festival is people like to wander around, catch this. It's like being in a great big open air sweetie shop. So one of the problems for a storyteller is you don't want to hold people up. So we've said all the time, make sure the stories or the poems are quite short, and that gives people the opportunity to hear one and not stop them enjoying the rest of the festival.
So that's what they did. And that's why now in the North Pole, for half of the year, it's bright, bright sunshine. But for the other half of the year, it's really dark.
How many storytellers and performers and rappers have we managed to rustle up in Hull to tell stories to people in Hull?
On this project, we've got about 50 local storytellers, poets and rappers. And it's a wonderful range from, I think our youngest is 16 and our oldest had her 70th birthday this weekend. So that's a massive age range, 60 to 70, and they've all got their own ways of performing in the form that they want to do it in and the story that they want to tell. And a lot of this is original material. Very rarely have people taken a story or a poem that already exists. They've often created their own work. So we're developing original work and we're developing the performing talent of local people.
The needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many. Backs break, pockets fill, swarms of migrants seen as rivals. Let them eat cake, said the snakes. To be indifferent will never make a difference. Morally castrated puppets always riches covet. Devil spawn of mammon, to greed they all concede. Centuries of pain, the first world's immeasurable gain.
Hull has always had a really strong literary tradition, much stronger than Leeds or Manchester. And if we needed proof, look at this. This is a storytelling barge. Half the performances have been filled to capacity. We've had a strong literary tradition, and thanks to Freedom to Tell Tales, we know it's one that's going to continue into the future.